I think being brave is when you are aware of the fear, you're aware of the risk, but you choose to take the step anyways. I realized that after a certain age, we start to do everything on our own, and like I think that kind of required me to grow up a little bit in a world where everyone has a different expectation of you. How do you live so that you're content? How do you find that contentment?
When will you be satisfied?
Good question.
As we're on the pursuit of living our life, sometimes we will be met with people who disagree with how we live, our beliefs, and the context of where we're at in life. And what I learned from this is you can't get everyone to like you. In this episode, Joanne joins us to discuss what it means to be disliked, what it means to be brave, and what it means to live a life intentionally. Without further ado, my name is NickyAdopt, and this is the Next Adventure Podcast.
Joanne, describe to me the feeling of being disliked.
Very interesting. This is something I've been thinking about recently. The feeling of being disliked. I guess the most important thing is that it's hurtful. Everyone wants to be liked. Everyone wants to be appreciated for what they do. Everyone tries to be the best person for anyone, but like it's unrealistic. So I think I would say the desire to be liked by everyone is an unrealistic desire, but it's something that everyone has. The feeling of being disliked is just being slapped with reality and like realizing that sometimes you can't avoid being the villain, and sometimes that's okay. You know, you don't have to be the best person in everyone's eyes because you can't. So yeah.
Before we get into the topic, for the people listening back at home, can we give a little brief introduction of who you are, where you come from, and what you're doing, basically? Yeah.
So, my name is Joanne. I turned 21 this year, and right now I'm pursuing a degree in design practice. Yeah, so I do comms design, viscom stuff, graphic design, all of that. I work in an advertising agency at the moment. Yeah, as an intern. So yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Do you feel very new to that company? In the sense where I'm not sure if you have a lot of like job experience out there. This is coming from just me thinking that being in school, a lot of people don't have that outside of system kind of experience. You get what I mean? Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, what do you think?
I would say I'm very new to advertising as like working in an agency. But in terms of being in the service industry, because, you know, service that we're giving is design, media, producing content, that kind of thing, I don't think I'm new to the service industry per se. So dealing with clients, kind of managing expectations, coming to an agreement, coming to a compromise, these are not things that are very new to me. So on that front, I feel like most people would find that challenging, but I would say like that's not something that I'm very new to. But I think something that when I started working, something that surprised me was how rigid some companies can be, and even though they are in like the media industry, you would assume that like a lot of people are more like, you know, go with the flow, but actually there are a lot of people who follow structures, which is not a bad thing. It was just surprising to me.
Who follows structures? The company or the...
Certain people that I work with, I guess, the bosses. So they have a certain idea of like how they want things to be, which is good because there's a standard, but it's also tough when it feels like you don't have a say or you don't have a voice, because it feels like you're just like the hands that are doing the work and they are the minds. And I understand that in a bigger company, it's inevitable. You can't have everyone contribute and everyone decide the direction, but it's nice to be heard. So sometimes it feels like it's hard to get to them, but you know, it just happens, right?
What it feels like, it sounds like there's this detached between like the upper kind of people and the people who are working for them, in the sense. Just now you were talking about managing expectations of how people perceive us, I think. How do you think the relationship within you and the working environment, we show our front. How do you present yourself in the way?
Sorry, can I have a rephrase of the question?
Yes. Well, no, because I'm thinking out loud in terms of we as people. The first question which I was asking, the courage to be disliked. I came to that conclusion because you read the book, right? And I thought that was a very good topic to talk about, because we're living in a world where a lot of people are always needing that validation from people and always showing that fake front because they don't want to be disliked. They feel that we need to be presentable all the time to people, but during that process people lose themselves and they don't know what they are living for in the sense. So how do you manage that kind of thing for yourself? Do you show your true self all the time, or do you it depends on the people kind of thing?
I'm very excited that you brought the book up, because it's something that really opened my eyes to realize that the most important person, this might sound selfish and conceited, but the most important person that you should be living for is yourself. I would say the book kind of showed me that if you live to please other people, you're living other people's lives and you actually don't owe anyone anything. And a lot of people might take that idea and misconstrue and be like, oh, so I can hurt people, I can take advantage of other people. But I think the most important thing is that you know what exactly the kind of person that you want to be, and then other people's view of you should not change that. So that's the point that the book was trying to make, and that's something that completely resonates with me, is that in a world where everyone has a different expectation of you, how do you live so that you're content? How do you find that contentment? You can only please so many people, but should that even be the goal? I feel like the goal should be, you know what exactly you want to be, what kind of person you want to be. Maybe if you think about the roles that you're playing, or the hats that you put on. Maybe, for example, I'm an intern in this agency. What is my expectation of myself as an intern? What are some roles that I want to fulfill, and how do I want to fulfill them? And then from there, I will do what I have to do. And then I'll look at the feedback, look at how my supervisors sort of react to that, how my peers react to that, and then I see their responses and stuff. Sometimes those responses are a good gauge of is this standard right, or is this standard something that I want to continue to follow? And then from there I can measure again. It doesn't have to be this one fixed thing, but I think having an idea of what you want is important, because sometimes, let's say I choose to be someone a certain type of intern, and then let's say my supervisor doesn't like certain things, but not for any other reason, let's say it's not written in the contract, but they have an expectation of me that I don't agree with. Then I'll have to ask myself, is that something that I want to compromise and appease them in a sense? And is that necessary? So if I feel their expectation of me, let's say they want me to work more, work harder, that kind of thing, for example. If this is something that I see a value in, let's say I want to work harder so I become a better designer. If we both agree, why not? But if they want me to commit to something that I don't agree with, then I'll have to ask myself, is that really necessary? So then that's where the courage to be disliked comes in, because it's I will decide whether I want to be this person, not you decide for me. Yeah, so you have to be, I guess, brave enough to stand your ground and just dare to do what you feel will make you be content with your performance, or your the way that you are. I feel that's relevant for a lot of aspects, because we all play a lot of different roles. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, more than I'm also a student. So all of that, we have to gauge what kind of person do we want to be in those situations. And if that doesn't match with someone else's expectation, it's good to be aware, but you also have to be careful that you don't let that determine how you act. You have to have that like filter, you know, that like, do I want to change, and is that beneficial?
Just now you talk about bravery. Describe to me the feeling of being brave.
Being brave. I think something that I saw online was that being brave is like being aware of the fear, like feeling the fear, but doing it anyways. It's not like the absence of fear, because if there's no fear, then why not do it? Like there's no resistance. But I think being brave is when you are aware of the fear, you're aware of the risk, but you choose to take the step anyways. That's what bravery looks like to me.
Have you been in any situations like that before?
Of course. Let me try to think about some examples. I guess at one point, okay, this is not the best example, but at one point I wanted to get a piercing, right? And then I was like, so I went to the piercer, and he was like, you know, so basically I have an industrial piercing, and it's 2 piercings in one. So I didn't really think about that until I got to the shop, and then he was like, you know, it's 2 piercings, right? You're gonna have like twice the amount of pain. And I was like, whoa. Then I stepped back for a while, and I was just like, do I want this? Like is it worth it? Is it worth the look? And then I walked around for a while, and then after that I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go and get it. So I went there, and then after that he pierced, and it bled so much. But then, you know what? I was proud of myself after when I left, because I was like, I got what I wanted. You know, like I made a decision, I followed through, and then now, like, I mean, after the swelling went down and everything, it looks great. I don't regret it. So like, it was just knowing the risk of the pain, the risk of it not healing properly and all that, then like deciding whether I want it. But on a more serious note, an example of having to be brave. Recently, I realized that as we grow older, a lot of us have to do things alone. And like, I'm someone that loves connection. I'm someone that loves hanging out with people and like spending time just talking and doing things together. And something that I've had to come to terms with is that everyone is really like living their own lives, especially like the older we grow and stuff. So like, it's something I realized is that you really can't have, okay, maybe some people do. Some people have like childhood friends since young all the way until they're older. But I talked to like maybe a friend who has had a best friend, like her best friend, since she was in primary school. But then I asked her like, oh, so how close are y'all? And she says they're not close at all. So it's just like the name. And then, cause her life is so different from like her best friend's life and her life, they're both really different. So I realized that after a certain age, we start to do everything on our own. And like, I think that kind of required me to grow up a little bit and to be brave, because I knew it's inevitable. Everyone has to go through that. Everyone has to end up like facing things alone. But it's scary. Like, I'm not used to that. So I think that's something that I'm going through right now, coming to terms with like the fact that I'm gonna have to face a lot of things alone. And that's why recently, because I know it's inevitable, that's why it's like facing the fear, right? But sometimes the fear of being like alone for the rest of my life still like creeps in, because I'm not fully like 100% like used to that idea. Then I have to ask myself like, will I be okay if, let's say, I have like no companionship, or like companionship but like not in the way that I hope. So maybe in the future, if I don't get attached, if I don't have a family of my own, is that okay? Like, will I be okay? And I want to come to a place that I'll be satisfied even though I don't have those things. But that, I guess, requires bravery and learning to be adaptable also, I think, is important.
When will you be satisfied?
My friend actually asked me that question recently. He asked me how do I measure like contentment? How do I like decide when I'm gonna be satisfied? To be honest, I don't have an answer. But something that he said that he suggested for me to measure my life's contentment by too is that like you're aware of yourself, like who you are today, and then like you push yourself to be better tomorrow. So I think that's honestly the only way to be content without having unrealistic expectations of yourself. Because actually something that he mentioned was that like let me think. What did he say again? Oh yeah, so he said to like have the courage to change the things that you can, and like also have that like self-acceptance when you can't change certain things, and to also have the wisdom to like know the difference between the two and not fight things that you cannot change. So I think when he told me about like measuring myself in that way, like I know who I am now and I get better like the next day, that kind of thing. It's a very comforting thought, because it's just like I don't have to achieve certain things. I don't have to have like the money or like a certain life, then I'll be happy with myself. It's comforting, but also like at the moment I'm not there yet. I don't fully believe that like, oh, if I don't have those things, that I'll be happy. But I think it's a journey. Like I can't expect myself to listen to that once and be like, yeah, I fully believe it. You know, it's like I have to keep reminding myself that like, you know, sometimes things just won't go the way that I want it, and like how do I adapt to that? How do I like be okay in spite of things going like not the way that I hope? Yeah, but at the moment I don't think I'm very content with my life, if that's just a note to mention.
So you're all content with your life lah, basically, right now?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Struggling in the sense, is it? Do you have like a picture of what life is in your head? What the perfect or the standard of living according to you?
Not so much expectation of where I should be, because I'm very fortunate to have people around me that don't have that expectation, so I don't feel that like external pressure. But it's more of because I know myself, and I know that like I'm someone who's very like passion and purpose driven, and as of late I feel like I've had a sort of like unraveling of my beliefs, or like questioning my own beliefs, I guess. So I mean, I feel like that's part of growing up, but it can be disorienting to know that I'm someone who like thrives off of like knowing why I'm doing something and like using passion to drive me. But recently, like the fact that I don't feel passionate about a lot of things, and therefore I'm not achieving certain things, can be like a little bit disorienting for me. That's why I'm not content. But it's not so much that like I'm not doing something, it's just I don't have my why.
Why?
Nothing clicks. Like, you know, if you feel passionate about something, you will like feel it lah. You cannot lie to yourself and say that it's there, and you cannot fake it, and you cannot like just grab something and be like, okay, this is my passion in life now. All you can do is like try different things and see if it clicks. And at the moment I haven't found it. Like I found hobbies that are interesting, but it's not so much like purpose or passion in life, or like, you know, it's just this interests me, this engages me for an hour and then that's it.
Before the recording, we were talking about how we actually don't need to find our purpose. Let's talk about that again. A lot of people are following, the error in my words, false purposes, because they don't know. They're just following anyone, maybe their parents or maybe what the system tells them. And have you broken out of that yet?
I think at the moment, I'm trying to figure this entire situation out. So for example, if you mentioned false purposes, right? I'm starting to think about what is a purpose. How do you define what's correct and what's wrong? Because let's say, for example, you have a person that doesn't have any purpose and doesn't achieve anything, as opposed to someone who has like a false purpose in a sense. They don't believe in what they are doing, but they're doing it anyways. which one is worse? I think to me both are bad, but like these are two bad situations that you have to choose between, right? And for the person that's following a false purpose, the regret that like might arise would be like, oh, I spent all my time like on something that I don't believe in. But at least they are like getting stuff done. You know what I mean? It's like they can also look back and think about the fact that they've achieved something. Maybe not something that they fully believe in, but they've gotten stuff done. So maybe if that's something that makes them content, why not follow like false purposes in a sense? Let's say the option to find your true purpose is not there, because sometimes it just doesn't happen for people, you know? So it's like following a false purpose so terrible? Or like the other person with no purpose is like, a regret would be like, oh, I didn't achieve anything. But you could also change your mindset and say that like, at least I didn't waste my time striving for something that I don't even believe in. And at the end of my life, I'm just like, damn, I didn't do anything. So technically, you could end up, even though you're like not doing anything, you could still be content with the fact that at least I didn't slave away for like stuff that I don't believe in. So it's all about like how you measure it. It's not the actual thing that you accomplish it, like the thing that you accomplish yourself. Yeah.
There's this one question that has been in my mind since just now. It's how do you feel what is right, what is wrong in terms of the decisions we make? And a lot of people I talk to go with the intention with this is right because it's based on solid evidence or things like that. But there is taking that step out of the comfort zone for them where maybe the beliefs that they have been going through before or the purposes that have been brought in by other people, suddenly they click and think that, yeah, this is not really for me anymore. But I'm not sure if I should leave this thing. What happens? It's that darkness that really scares the people from going in. Not so much fear of failure kind of thing, but it's more of just like the confidence that they don't have to get inside. So how would you describe what is right and what is wrong? How do you decide that kind of thing?
Good question. I think recently what I've been thinking about is there some like objectively right and wrong? Because let's say, for example, someone steals a loaf of bread. They get caught. So objectively, they did something wrong. However, what if they stole the loaf of bread to feed their children? And that's the only way they can afford, or that's the only way they can have access to that loaf of bread. Then what he did was right. And then the question is like, so who's the actual person that's right here? Like, then I think like the movie Les Mis, you know, it shows how like that main character stole a loaf of bread, and then he gets punished to be in jail for 20 years. It's like, yeah, okay, the justice here is that he got punished, but he was punished unjustly because just for the loaf of bread, he served for 20 years. So then it's like, it's all based on the actual context of the situation. That's why I cannot really give you an objective what's right and what's wrong. I think that's why a lot of people turn to like religion, because they need that moral compass. They need that like, they can't accept the fact that there, to me, sometimes it feels like there are no objective truths. Everything is subjective. Everything is relative. So like, they cannot accept the fact that there's like, that nothing matters and everything is like, there's nothing like certain. So they get scared and then they turn to religion. But I mean, I think the most important thing to note is that, first of all, like what is like logic is important, of course. Like you don't, when I say like, if I say, oh, you have to be the judge of your own decisions, like naturally it's like what I said just now, what if someone takes the advice and like, okay, I'm gonna hurt someone right now because like, but like, I think a lot of people measure their decisions based on like what's beneficial and what's not beneficial. Do I agree with that? Not necessarily, because I think my upbringing sort of like leads me to judge things, whether it's like morally correct or like morally wrong. But I realized that everyone has a different measure of what's morally correct and what's not. So it's not really very useful, I think, to judge someone's actions based on what's morally right or morally wrong, because everyone has a different measure. That's why it's so hard for me to decide what's right or what's wrong. And I think there was this drama that like my dad recommended to me that shows, I guess, he describes it as like it shows human nature and how people decide what to do based on what's beneficial, not what's right or what's wrong. It's like some people have a stronger moral compass, some people don't. And no one actually owes you to do the right thing. Maybe by law they have to do the right thing, but no one actually really owes you that, you know. So that's something that I've had to come to terms with also, that like people can screw you over and that's just the way it is. You know, like, is that right? Not necessarily, but is that really wrong? If they're presented with the opportunity and they take it, no, they're just using whatever they have access to gain leverage. But we can judge that and say like, oh, that's wrong. Why are you stepping on other people to get what you want and stuff? But sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. Am I gonna do it? Most definitely not, because it makes me feel bad. But like, some people just don't have that, and I've just have to accept that. Like, some people just really don't care, and they don't owe me that to feel bad if they were to like take advantage of, like, maybe they would have to get me out of the way just to get what they want. Sometimes they'll just do that. Like, I would say some of my close friends have shown me that they are willing to do that for what they want. And that scares me sometimes, to know that there are some of my closest friends, people that I respect 100%, are willing to do that if I'm ever in their way. But then I have to think like, do they owe me anything? No. They might be my friend now, but in 10 years, what if we are truly like both competing for the same spot and she needs to get rid of me? She's just gonna do that, and I'm gonna have to be okay with it. Does that mean I'm gonna continue being her friend? See how, you know, but like I can decide on that on a later date. But just knowing that like some of even like the people that I respect the most are people who are willing to do that made me realize that no one owes you anything. Yeah, kind of scary though, that thought.
I think I've learned a lot from what you said, actually. It really opened my eyes to feeling less like I need to make people happy, in the sense, and just really live for myself. I used to struggle with that a lot, thinking that I needed everyone to like me. And I guess like what your friend said also, in terms of what you can change kind of thing. A lot of how I live by defaults in trying to not have a lot of high expectations, because knowing that, like you said, people are busy. I mean, that is the truth. People are busy, people have their own lives, and slowly everyone is drifting apart because everyone is chasing different things. I had to come to terms with knowing that people won't show up even if we plan out things and everything. And that's just life. It's nothing that I did wrong or anything. It's just that they are doing what they are doing and they are living their life, which they're supposed to. So I think that's the beauty of it, that's life. And we sort of just have to live in that kind of thing. Is there anything that you would like to say to those people who feel that they are sort of stuck in that zone of what should I believe in and if this is right for me?
For people who are like struggling about that, like in between of like, is this right for me, or like, or what if there's nothing for me, that kind of thing, right? I think if you're like deciding on something that could be right, there's no harm trying, but don't be afraid if it doesn't work, because some people spend their whole life searching. Sometimes the fulfillment might even be in the journey, and you wouldn't know until you try. So why not just like try? If there's something in front of you, like just try it. But if that doesn't work out and you end up with like nothing and you feel like you're back to square one, like try to not be afraid of that aimless feeling. Because I think that's something that everyone goes through. And I think it's important to be patient with ourselves. That we cannot force these things. We cannot force ourselves to believe in things that we don't believe in. Or we cannot force ourselves to like find purpose in things that just don't click. So maybe like keep an open mind, but not be afraid of that aimless feeling. Because we're all searching. You know, it's like there's no... If you take away all the expectations of yourself or the people around you, there's actually no timeline that you have to follow. You can follow it. There are like suggestions, but there's no actual timeline that you have to follow. So what's the rush? You know, like just explore things, keep an open mind, understand how you feel and register like, is this something that you want? If it's not, then try something else. Like there are so many opportunities out there, and like don't limit yourself to just one thing because that's in your mind, that's something that you have to have. If it doesn't work out, then just try again. I mean, it's difficult. It's a lot harder to do than just like saying it, right? But like I think keeping an open mind is very important, and like daring to try again.
That's nice. My name is NickyAdopt,
and my name is Joanne.
and we hope to see you guys on
The next adventure.
Goodbye.